A massive good evening and welcome to everyone. This is our first week of our Route 66. Hang on, there we are. So a massive good evening. Yes, this is our first week. So week one of our Route 66 Success and Happiness Mindset Program. If you have just joined us, say a big hello in the chat group. I can see that we've got Kath, we've got Tracy, we've got Lisa, we've got lots of us joining, which is fantastic. So we're going to get straight in there. So I'm going to invite you now to open up your workbook onto page number 1. And what we're going to be covering in week 1 is the neuroscience behind habits, the warrior wheel of life, and also what success and happiness means to you. So this is what we're going to be covering this evening in the next 45 minutes. So I'm just going to read with you here. So psychologists tell us that by the time we are in our mid-30s, our identity or personality will be completely formed. This means that those over 35 years of age, we have memorized a select set of behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, emotional reactions, habits, skills, associative memories, conditioned responsive, and perceptions that are now subconsciously programmed within us. These programs are running because the body has technically become the mind. I am going to come into this more. This means that this means that we will think the same thoughts, feel the same feelings, react in habitual ways, behave in the same manner, and perceive reality the same way. These all make up a large portion of our self-identity. So if you're sat there going, oh dear God, well, I'm over the age of 35, so I'm screwed. I am going to tell you that is not the case. Do not worry, my loves. This is what it's all about. The reason that I wanted to share this is there's one thing knowing that we have between 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. 80% of those are habitual. This is all sort of backed by modern research, and around 90% is negative. Now that's one thing knowing that, but actually really recognizing how much of an effect that our thoughts have on our beliefs, our reactions, our habits, our skills, our memories. So I'm going to carry on. So about 95% of who we are by the age of 35 is a series of subconscious programs that have become automatic. So such as driving a car, brushing our teeth, overreacting when stressed, worrying about the future, judging our friends. Let's be honest, we sometimes do this, we don't mean to. Fearing being judged by our friends, complaining about our bodies, not believing in ourselves. These were to name a few. I literally could have carried on listing. So this leaves just 5% of our conscious mind to focus on reprogramming our thoughts and behaviors to form new habits and change all that encompasses our self-identity. Now, again, if you're sat there going, oh dear God, so not only am I over that age, but I've only got 5% of my conscious mind to do this. Now, when we say 5% left, what we actually mean is if you're just running on autopilot, 95% of what you'll be doing if you're over the age of 35 will be habitual, let's say, complete habit. So what that actually means is that there's 5% left, if we were to sort of put it into that category, of your conscious awareness that goes, do you know what? I know I shouldn't have that Kit Kat with my coffee, but it tastes so good. So habit comes into play. So only that 5% of our conscious mind just kind of goes into it. Now, when it comes to focusing and forming these habits, little bit different, okay? So you're not just going to be working with 5%. When we really focus and put our energy into it, that's when the shifts begin to happen. That's when we really begin to take control. What we've just explained here is this is just if we're going about our day on autopilot. So I just wanted to make that nice and clear. Yes, it's freaking scary, but we need to know this stuff. A lot of this in week 1 is going to be hard hitting facts that basically, if we do not do this program, if we do not consciously work on our habits, you will get to the end of your life the same person as you are today. And if you are in the habit loop, which is something that we're going to be looking at, then they're just going to keep going. They're going to get more deep ingrained, and you will just become more of the version of who you already are. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. Habits certainly do not change through a bit of willpower. It comes down to that focus. It comes down to knowing what you want and shifting that on an internal level. Yes, Kath, thank goodness for self-development. Hallelujah. I will absolutely agree with you there. So something that really stood out to me over sort of the last few years is this concept of the body has become the mind. So let's say, okay, I know that no one on this, I think the youngest is 24, which is Nath, and then I think we've got 26 or 27. The rest of us, I'm going to say 30 plus. By this age, our automatic responses, our body just does. So that's how we can basically, if we start to really see that the body has become the mind, that we are just being run by this automatic process, that actually we have to take back that control. We are now going to say, hang on a minute, I'm going to reprogram the mind. So I'm just going to give you some information now. Feel free, if you've got a notebook there, to make some notes, or just feel free to kind of let your mind submerge this in. And remember, all of this is available on replay. So I am going to kind of keep going with this. If there's any particular questions, I can see you guys chatting in the comments. So keep it going, guys. But in order for us to create something new in our lives, we have to leave behind a portion of the known and the familiar. This includes our familiar thoughts, behaviors, emotions, and sometimes relationships or jobs or circumstances. The reason why we put so much effort into our daily practice, so doing what we're going to be learning, the reason why this is so important is it goes beyond creating the wealth, the success, a new relationship, a new job, or a new opportunity. It's about who we become in the process. So as we were saying before, the 66 days, yes, fantastic, you've committed, you've done. It's about who you're going to become in this process whilst you're forming new habits. It's in the act of overcoming our past and the familiar, so all of the known territories in our life, that allows us to not revert to the unconscious emotions and habits that are hardwired into us from the past. Does that make sense? So it is overcoming these habitual cycles that allows you to not just reverse back. It isn't about doing it for 21 days or just going, I'm going to go to the gym and that's it. Like, we have to really put this into place in a hardwired way. So just imagine what would be possible if you could put all of your passion, your energy and attention into the thoughts of your future with the same passion, energy and attention that you put into your self-limiting thoughts. So just take that in for a minute, all the energy that you spend. And I'll hold my hands up and say, I'm absolutely there. I've been there. I have to constantly work on this. But that energy that you put in, not liking what you see in the mirror, that negative self-talk. Why did you have to say that? Why are you doing that? What if you fail? Imagine if you could bottle all of that up and put it into the attention of your future. Just imagine if you could stop surrendering to the fear or anxiety and start surrendering more to love and self-belief. So this Route 66 program is all about discovering the habits that underpin success and happiness, recognizing which ones work for you. Remember, we are all really, really different. What works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. This is why I want to provide you with a toolkit and a place for self-exploratory, if that's the right word, where you can learn all these different things and think, right, I know what my goal is. I know what success is. I know what happiness means to me. How do I put this in? We know how to do that, or you will do by the end of this program. And you can try different things and see what works for you. And when we recognize the ones that work for you, we're going to work on firing and wiring these new thoughts together. and what we call the thoughts of your future. And we're going to be doing this within the brain every single day. So just know that over the next 10 weeks, you're going to really be submerging yourself in creating this ideal future for yourself around your habits and behaviors. Because each time you form a new habit, it alters the choices that you make, and it's helping to align you with your future. So you're priming your brain to install the neurological hardware to actually think, act, and feel like the person that you want to become in the future. So I'm just going to kind of reword that a little bit. So if we have the ideal future vision of yourself, which again, this is something that we totally do on this course, then the more that you begin to align your habits and the choices that you make, you're basically priming your brain to install the neurological hardware so that you naturally begin to think and act and feel like the person that you're becoming. So rather than the body running the mind, which is what it currently is doing, it's still technically going to do that. But what we're going to do is begin to change things on a neurological level so that you begin to think, act, and behave like the person that supports the future vision that you have for yourself. Can everyone just give me a big yes in the comments if this makes sense? So I want to see a big fat yes in the comments if this is making sense. Thank you, Kath. Yes, if you're feeling a hell yes, throw that in there. Fantastic. Keep going. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely awesome. I don't know if you can see me or not, or if you can just see the screen, but yeah, I'm getting very excited. Awesome. So I'm just going to sort of round this up a little bit. If you keep firing and wiring these networks in your brain, you'll hear me say fire and wire a lot, because it's Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this. The thoughts that fire and wire together stick together. So if you keep firing and wiring these networks in your brain, this will become your new way of thinking, and your habits and behaviors become your future, and they just become automatic. So that's what we're going to be looking at very soon, is the automaticity behind habits. We are all kings and queens of automaticity. We do it naturally. If we didn't, there's a whole other story. I'll come on to that. But when you do this enough time, so as we walk as our future self, as we practice the habits and behaviors of that ideal of that success and happiness, as we get our body involved each day in the process, such as meditation, such as exercise, such as visualization, the behavior becomes the habit of the new self. Does this make sense? So the more that we get our body involved, if you read what's on the screen, the body becomes the mind. The more that we get the body involved in this process, the behavior becomes the habit of the new self. This is how we create new habits of thought and behavior. So then one day, you'll just naturally walk through the front door or to your car as that future person, not as the unconscious programs that you normally live by. So as you will leave your house tomorrow morning, that's who you are today. You are walking, talking version of your thoughts, habits, and behaviors. The more that we practice working on the habits, thoughts, and behaviors of that future self, I promise you, before you know it, you will be walking out of that door as that future you. Now, those of you, I'm just going to sort of use a little bit of, can just see you, Kaz, not split screen. Oh. Hang on. Okay, guys, let me just double check. So can everyone just confirm? Can you see me? Or can you see the screen? You can only see me? Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. Oh, what? I literally have just been chatting away to myself. Right, let me just... Can you see the screen? Oh, man. I can see you, but not the chat or a split. I can only see you guys. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I've just been, like, picking my nose and everything. Let's have a look. Why won't that? Okay, I'm back on here. I'm just going to pause. Right, resume recording. Okay, so you've just been watching me like get all excited with my head down. Okay, so you can now see the beautiful slides in front of you. I'm sorry that you've missed the ones before. Oh, bless you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, this is what you see is what you get. Okay, so we have now summarized, let's say, the power. This is what I wanted to really, really get across. We get told all the time the power of our thoughts, and like you are what you think about, and oh my God, it just goes. We are that. Like there is nothing more to life other than that. Exactly who you are today is a direct result of your thoughts, your actions, and your behaviors. So what we're going to do now, here we are, we're just going to come on to the history of habits. I'm very briefly just going to touch on this. So some of you, someone has unmuted yourself. Just have a little look, guys, to see if you've unmuted yourself. So there was a book published called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maltz. And this is going back to the 1960s. This is where the myth around 21-day habits came from. And basically what happened was he was performing plastic surgery on his patients. And what he found was it took on average around 21 days for them to begin to recognize the change in the mirror. So what he basically summarized, this wasn't even like set in stone research, but when he published this in his book about behaviors, he basically said that it takes around 21 days, did a couple of studies on himself, and he was like, yeah, feels about right, about 21 days. Not right at all. But he actually went on to sell around 30 million copies of that book. So you've got the likes of Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, that all went on to do 21-day programs, 21 days to form a new habit. And it's absolute BS, basically. There was no hard evidence behind it. AA programs, they actually do 66-day programs because they know that that's the average of what it takes. I've recently learned that. So that's kind of basically society spreading a myth around the 21 days thing. It makes a lot of sense. It's easy to sell. It sounds easy to do. What actually happens on a neurological level is around the 21-day mark, we begin to form a pattern in the brain. So all the synapses are very much beginning to form together, but it's just forming a pattern of thought. The automaticity that you can see on the screen, so if you look up at the top right corner, you can see the automaticity is the line coming up, and along the bottom are the amount of days. So depending on the habit depends on how long it takes for it to just become automatic, basically. And around the 21-day mark, it's not yet automatic. It's starting to become a pattern of behavior, but not where we need it to be, which is in the automaticity. So the modern research, I'm just going to very quickly share with you. Too many people did 21 days, didn't they? Yes. Oh my God, so many people. And we're going to banish that myth, I swear to God. So it was a lovely lady called Philippa Lally, who is a health psychology, and she did a research in the University College of London. It's published in the European Journal of Social Psychology, and they wanted to basically find out how long it takes. And the long and short of it, so this is by Dr. Lally. I always think it's good to know where this stuff comes from. It takes an average of 66 days. If you were just, yes, Lally, Lally, no E. But if you were to take drinking a glass of water as soon as you've woke up in the morning, likelihood is that would probably take about the 21-day mark, because you already drink water. Water's already part of your daily habit, or I'm hoping so. If not, message me. And it's something that you can quite easily benchmark. Does that make sense? Whereas if you were looking at doing sit-ups, for example, after your breakfast, That would no doubt take around the 66-day mark because it's something that you don't usually do, for instance, at home. So that's why it takes longer for it to get into that state of automaticity. So the average is around the 2 months mark, but they say for it to become an automatic behavior, it takes around 66 days. One thing that they have said, the research showed that if you miss a day, it actually doesn't affect the habit formation process. If you begin to miss 2 days in rows, yes, it begins to alter how long it takes for that automaticity to come into play. So I am going to say, if in the future when you are going, right, 66 days, I know that's how long it's going to take me on average to quit smoking. I know that's how long on average it's going to take me to do a meditation every day. Like when you're using this, if you slip up and don't do it on a Sunday, don't beat yourself up and say, that's it, I know, I got to start again. Like, know that that's okay. It actually doesn't affect the habit formation process, which is good. Building better habits is not an all or nothing process. That's something that I've written as a note. Okay, so let's have a little look. Any questions, in fact, guys, before we move on to the next slide? Please share if you have. What we're going to be, okay, I can come back to any questions. I love this. I love this. This was who I was on about, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Each time you make a new choice that is in alignment with your future, you are priming your brain to install the neurological hardware to actually think, act, and feel like the person you want to be in your future. How insane is that? How real is that? That every time you make a new choice that's in alignment with your future, you are priming your brain to install the neurological hardware to think, act, and feel like the person you want to be. I just love that, so I wanted to share that with you. Okay, if you want to turn over your next page, we're just going to have a brief look at this. I put this in here so that you can actually have a look at it yourself. You can really begin to get your head around. Okay, so top left corner. I'm looking to save effort here. Okay, know that your brain wants to store energy. That is one of its main things. It still believes, we've got our primate brains, it still believes that you are going to be at danger and that at any point you need to be running. You also are going to be hunting and mating. Can you imagine? Oh my God. So if all we did all day was that, but that's what our brain wants to do. It wants to, that's why if you look at it there, the willpower thing, you imagine that every single day you get a bottle of willpower. I call it Y power, but let's call it willpower. And this is your energy system. Let's call it your energy, your brain power. And it starts up here. Every time you make a new decision or a choice or get confused about something, it begins to deplete your energy. That's why if you go on a course, by the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, because you've used your different senses, you've watched, you've listened, you've joined in. So we're bringing all of this in, and your body wants to reserve as much energy as it can. So that's why we form habits, basically, because imagine waking up every single day and relearning how to write, speak, drive, make love, do the pots, do all the daily things that we have. If we had to relearn that and our brain didn't form these habits, we would constantly having to relearn. This makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And it also says here, your brain does not know the difference between a good and a bad habit. Doesn't know the difference. If it did, it would not want you to smoke. It certainly would not want you to eat sugar. It certainly wouldn't want you to stay up till midnight watching Netflix. Like, it just doesn't know the difference. Whatever you focus on, that's what we bring about. So down in the left corner, okay, I'm going to have a little look over at the question shortly, but down in the left corner, what you'll see here is the very famous, we use this a lot in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called, okay, it's saying that we're going to end in 10 minutes, which is not ideal. If, guys, this does end in 10 minutes. Will any internet please upgrade to a paid account? I'm already on a paid account. Sorry, guys. Let me just pause the recording. Oh, okay. That's very frustrating, because they certainly take a payment every month. If this happens and we get lost, what I will do is create a new link. It literally takes like 30 seconds. Create a new link. I'll post it onto the Facebook group, and that is where you can rejoin. We'll just jump straight back on. We'll just have to do this in 2 parts. Because, yeah, we're definitely not going to be finished in 9 minutes. So when that happens, go straight over to the Facebook page, join the new link, and I'll see you straight back on. So you can see in the bottom left corner the habit loop, and that is the cue, routine, reward. So something in your environment, something will trigger that cue for you to come in. And then you do the routine. So let's take, for instance, as soon as you wake up in the morning, your alarm going off could actually be your cue to put the kettle on. So, you know, as soon as you wake up, your cue might be you wake up, you go down the stairs, you might put the kettle on, and then you let the dog out. And then you fill the water bowl, and then you make the sandwiches, and then you make the brew, and the reward is the coffee, or the reward is you actually acting that out. If you didn't do that, it could actually begin to cause a bit of upset. You know, when you're like, oh, I've not had my coffee, majority of it isn't even just the lack of caffeine, it's the lack of routine, it's the lack of habit. So does that make sense? So this is where all the cravings come in, because everything around you will be cueing you to act a certain way. Why? The brain wants to preserve energy. So yes, I'm hoping that all makes sense. Any questions on this, ask now. I'm just going to go back and answer the question. So Sarah, I spent a year training for the marathon last year, and so was running regularly. I haven't run since last June, so it can't have become a habit for me then. So you had a particular goal. So did you run beforehand? And if so, was that something that you enjoyed? Did you want that to be a part of your daily habit? Or did you just sign up to the London Marathon and train? This is the thing. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So the first thing that I would ask you there, Sarah, is if you haven't run since last June, did you enjoy the marathon? Did you enjoy the training? Do you want to bring that habit back into it? Does that make sense? I would love to know the answer. Yes, Tracy, it's because you were training for a particular event. To make it habitual, you make it part of your life, absolutely, like a long-term thing, not just for a specific date. Yes, absolutely right. So do let us know. That's really interesting. I'm so bad with routines. Yes, I did run beforehand, but on and off. And yes, I used to enjoy it. Now I don't have the motivation to run. I love the marathon and the training, but now I have no interest. I would ask if that's a part of your goal. Do you want to bring that back in? You had a big reason why. So the running, possibly you weren't intentionally trying to form a habit. You were actually training for something, if that makes sense. So yes, it will no doubt have become a habit in terms of it's just something that you knew you were doing, but there's a slight difference between focusing on something that's got an end result, an ending, if that makes sense, and actually forming this as a habit. This, guys, is why diets do not work. Because when we're on a diet, what we're telling ourselves, I'm just going to use this example, Sarah, this is so good, thank you so much for sharing. When we go on a diet, we're putting that it's for a short amount of time. No one goes on a diet for a lifetime. We are conditioned, our brains know that a diet is something that you do for a while, and that's it. Otherwise, it's a lifestyle. Does that make sense? So that's why so many, one of the top 3 categories of people that gain weight in the UK and America, one of them is people that are on diets gain weight. Why? Because it's not, sorry, I didn't even mean to go off on this one, because it's not a part of a lifestyle. This is why creating habits around food, again, something that we're going to do. I'm a dieter too. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say, Jesus Christ, have I been there before in the past? And it is so neurologically embedded that if I'm not on a certain shake plan, if I'm not on a something, then I'm not on it. And then you eat whatever's in sight. It's a diet mentality. This can change your life if you implement this into your lifestyle in the food way as well. So guys, we've got 4 minutes left. So I'm going to carry on and then we can jump off here and then we're going to be jumping back on to the new one. So bear with me. I do apologize for this. This happened once before and I had to get back in touch with Zoom. Yeah, can't say I'm impressed with it. But we are going to move on. So any questions on that? Yeah, absolutely, guys. Okay, let's have a look. So we're going to have a look now at what automaticity is. So automaticity is the ability to perform tasks without conscious thoughts. So it's just you, it's on the screen. This is typically the result of learning, practice and knowledge that adapts the brain to a task such that it requires few mental resources to complete. The following are illustrative examples. So I'm just going to sort of share these ones with you. If we look at muscle memory, so a physical task that when you first do it is tiring to do and it takes conscious effort, such as driving a car. Typing on a keyboard, you didn't know where all those keys were, but over time automaticity comes in and you know where those are. Riding a bike, playing an instrument. We've also got language. So language becomes automatic. Like you haven't got to think about forming a sentence. Sometimes you've got to think of the words, but the actual formation becomes part automatic. And also we call it the highway hypnosis. When you are driving along and you appear to have got somewhere and you don't necessarily have a conscious recognition of, say, allowing someone to cross the road in front of you. If I was to say to you, what colour shirt did the lady or man have on that you let cross the road? Likelihood is you wouldn't know because automaticities come into place, and we call that the highway hypnosis. So guys, I'm going to love you and leave you there for that one. And I'm going to make a new link. So jump straight off here, head over to the Facebook group, jump back on, because all we've got left is neuroplasticity, the reticular activating system, and then we are looking at the questions. So perfect. Yes, perfect. We're probably going to go till about 9:05, about another 15 minutes. See you very soon. Okay, stop recording.